Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting edition of Top Hat Chat Live, the greatest, most raw show on the entirety of the information superhighway. And we are synced up as well, so excellent.
Good news.
That's good news as well.
Yeah, I didn't completely suck this week.
No, that's good. Yeah. Very good.
Makes a change.
It does.
Okay, so obviously we have a topic for this week's chat.
Yes.
Before we start on that, I think we should probably do a bit of self-promotion for our Twitch channel.
Yes, tonight, as of 9 p.m. BST...
That's UK time.
Yes, indeed. We will be streaming on twitch.tv/Top Hat Chat, where you will be able to talk and interact with us all night whilst I play some Super Nintendo games.
Yeah, I think we've got Aladdin lined up and also Mega Man X.
We have. Quite generic, but it's what I felt like playing tonight.
Yeah,
simple
why
as
not?
that.
Yeah.
Nice, relaxing session.
Yeah. So we're good.
But yes, Nintendo, they used to be great, didn't they? That Super Nintendo
Yeah.
was pretty fantastic back in the day.
Yeah. See, Super Nintendo is, looking back, possibly one of my favourite consoles from a nostalgia point of view, but I think that it still holds up well now because of the quality of the games.
And despite the quality of the games, which are amazing, it's also of note that in Japan they had something known as the Satellaview service. So it was a little system add-on that went underneath the unit.
Nintendo and their add-ons.
And in a way, it basically offered downloadable content. So you could download games rather than offline. They were broadcast to you via satellite. So that was quite innovative, wasn't it?
Did Nintendo invent DLC?
Did they invent DLC?
That's a question for another time.
That's definitely a question for another time.
When we've done some research.
But anyway, they were cutting edge. They was ahead of the curve at times with this Satellaview service. So why is it now 2018 and Nintendo don't seem to realise how the internet works?
Yeah, no, they haven't really been keeping up with modern culture.
And what baffles me even more is the Nintendo Wii, which came out in 2006, offered more online capabilities than the Nintendo Switch does today. I can't fathom that.
Yeah.
I can't get my head around it whatsoever. It had a virtual console, it had loads of NES games, SNES games, Nintendo 64 games, TurboGrafx games, Mega Drive games. The list just goes on and on.
Yeah.
Lots and lots of things. And on top of that, it has apps as well. It had the YouTube app. It had an internet browser. The Nintendo Switch can't do any of these things.
Yeah, it's very, very strange. They've taken a decent step backwards in their latest Direct. I mean, they released 5 things in the latest Direct, didn't they?
They did,
Off the top of my head, I'm not going to name them. But even if I was going to name them, I could only do 4 anyway. Because one's still a mystery.
Is it? Why is it a mystery?
It was just a question box at the end.
Oh,
like,
and
and this news is yet to come. So they could be doing more with it, and obviously they are going to be doing more with it. That's a bit of a stupid thing to say. They might be. They are. They said they are. And what that is, we don't know. But how, like, the current state of what they're trying to sell,
it's ridiculous. Like,
is not right.
Their service was better over a decade ago, and now they're trying to offer a service which you have to pay for, and it's worse than the one from 10 years ago. That blows my mind.
I mean, we had a couple of chats recently and had a few discussions. I can't remember if it was on live stream or on Top Hat Chat or even just between ourselves possibly, about kind of Nintendo and why they were taking down their ROMs.
Okay, yes.
And I said that I think that it's because they're going to try and sell their ROMs as part of their online service. And that's pretty much what they're doing. So I would like just to say, nail on head.
Yes, but they are really horrible crap ones, what they've got. There's only a couple of good ones.
Yeah, I mean, they are going to be adding stuff in.
Like, what reason would anyone have, in 2018, want to go back and play games which are simply titled golf or soccer or pro wrestling?
I can tell you why.
Or tennis.
I can tell you why.
Okay, tell me.
Because if you spend an exorbitant amount on wireless NES controllers, then you're going to need a reason to use them.
Yeah, but
even if it's on golf.
But why would anyone ever be stupid enough to pay $50, I believe is the US retail price. I've not heard the UK retail price yet. For 2 controllers when you can get a whole NES Mini for $60. where you get all those games and 2 functional controllers. But I suppose the difference is they're wireless, whereas the NES Mini was barely functionable because it's got HDMI, so it connects to a modern TV, but the wires are about this long. So if you try to play it, you'll just pull it off the side and break it.
Do you think that's what Miyamoto wanted?
Yeah, shifty eyes Miyamoto. That's what he's done.
Well done. Sorry, in joke, but yes, well done. Yeah, like he intentionally made the cables of the controllers very short.
Yes, so
So
people
there
had
was
a
a
reason
reason.
to buy wireless ones.
Yeah.
Because if they was long, there'd be no reason to want wireless ones, would there?
Until they took away all the ROMs, so nobody could hack their NES Minis.
So, as you can see, Nintendo have been planning all this shiftiness out, haven't they?
Oh, yeah.
They've taken down the ROM sites. They intentionally sabotaged their own mini system by having little tiny wires.
Not completely confirmed, but
it's
a good shout.
It's a good shout, yes.
Yeah. Which is interesting because there were a lot of really dodgy things with that Direct. I mean, the Nintendo Online service has got some benefits. One of the things that I do hate about it, which I'm going to talk about right now, is the fact that you still need a mobile phone to talk to people online.
I've heard that's something to do with safeguarding. That's what I've heard, that Nintendo aren't comfortable with children being able to use their devices to talk to people online. That's what I've heard.
But that's just ridiculous, because you could put safeguards in the actual software itself, so that feature unlocks after a certain amount of time, or you put family controls on it to stop that from happening. So your mum or your dad, for example, or other parent / guardian could keep an eye on who you're adding and who you're talking to.
They're still avoiding a situation where the media could completely misconstrue things. Like, look at all the negative press Fortnite has had lately, and Fortnite, for example, is on the Nintendo Switch. Yeah. So Nintendo, I could see, would not want to be pulled into all of that sort of mess. I would gather.
Yeah, I mean,
they're a family company, as they always try and claim.
Families with lots of money
and no sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they cost a fortune to run. I was actually in my local game shop, and the guy behind the counter was selling a parent a Nintendo Switch for their son, who was also in the store, and he was saying, right, just be very, very careful when your son's playing with the Switch, because if you drop it, then it can crack the screen. The screens crack quite easily, and they cost like a couple of £100 to replace.
And speaking of this is quite an amusing point. That was one of the reasons Nintendo said you should pay for online, because they said their systems are basically flimsy and they probably break, so you need their cloud service.
Sorry.
They basically said that, it's going to break, you need to get it so you can have our cloud service.
Yeah. There was another thing as well about the cloud service, which I quite like. I quite like the idea, because I don't always look after my stuff. I'll be completely honest, I try, but there has been times when controllers have been launched at walls.
Okay, fair enough.
It happens. You've thrown controllers. You've done it on stream.
Fair enough.
So, I try and look after my things, but they do sometimes break. And I wanted all of my save data. Did you know that there was a little disclaimer that come up at the bottom of the screen when they said you can back up your save tiles? Did you see that?
No, I didn't notice that.
It said, might not work on all games.
Oh.
So it might not work on some of the games that you want the save data.
Speaking of this Direct, I'm not the only one who was perturbed about it. I went on Nintendo's YouTube channel today, I believe, and if you go on the online, the video promoting the online services, it's got twice as many dislikes as it's got likes.
Yeah, I actually saw that from one of my followers on Twitter.
Although, which I will say is alarming, that means 1 in 3 people are happy with that product and will pay for it. What do you think that's about?
The thing is that there are certain aspects of it that I think is going to be okay.
But okay enough to actually like the video? But there was thousands of people who liked it.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my head around that. There were thousands of people who liked the video.
Yeah, I don't like your videos.
I don't like my videos.
That's what I mean. You have to do something pretty magical to make me hit that like button.
No, that's what I was baffled to see all those likes on that video. It's like, what's wrong with people?
Yeah, no, it's quite perturbing.
It is, indeed.
Is that the right word?
And speaking of perturbing, there's probably lots of perturbing people in the comment section.
Yes,
so
we should
indulge in this for a little bit before we move on to talking further about this.
I've just realised, I just want to talk about this really, really quickly. There is an insane amount of screens in this room.
There is. There's always a lot of screens.
There is I can literally see 5 screens right now.
There is a lot of screen.
That's ridiculous.
Okay.
Anyway,
let's see. Has anyone got anything interesting to say? You're more of a chat expert than me, so let's see how quickly you can browse this.
Okay, Avocado with Legs says it's mainly just Dead Cells and Pokemon Let's Go. So
that's for Nintendo Switch in general, though, isn't it? Rather than the online service.
Yeah, I think so. Are we literally just talking about online service
at the moment? Yes, we could be talking about the direct.
Blinsky Goth says, "Why can't you just plug in your headset into the Switch and voice chat that way?" Again, we spoke about that briefly. It seems to be because Nintendo doesn't want creepy pervs chatting up their kids.
Exactly. Yes. Wise decision.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think children should go online anyway, and when I'm a parent, I will limit it as much as possible.
I'll believe it when I see it. Little Timmy was probably going to hear swears at school anyway, says Avocado with Legs. Yeah, it's not just about that. I suppose it is a bit about that.
It is, but it's about Nintendo's own publicity and the media slandering them, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, Jonathan Gray says, maybe if they offered a Netflix-style library of Nintendo classics, I'd actually buy their online service, but I'm not paying $5 yet again for Super Mario Brothers on the NES.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Like, especially in the UK, no one ever liked the NES to begin with. Yeah. No one ever liked it, so why would they like it in 2018?
We've discussed this
it doesn't
before,
make sense.
It's completely true. What else is going on? Why do people still defend this service / practice?
That's what we was discussing earlier as well. We don't really know, other than some sort of corporate indoctrination.
Yeah. One thing I do want to know is why would you
tribalism?
Why would you want to bother releasing an app that allows you to talk to your friends over Nintendo Switch when you have to have a phone to be able to do that, and that is what phones are for?
I would believe it's because Shifty, Miyamoto and co. Would probably pass the buck onto blaming Android for any ill will. That's what I'd guess.
No, that's bad. Well, the thing is, it's their app. I think they can try. I don't think they will. Okay. They won't succeed.
That's my theory. So has anyone else got anything relevant to say on this subject or interesting?
Katie Yates donates $2 and says, "Hi, Evil Heel Top Hat Gaming Man."
Hello there.
So I'm just throwing that out there as well. Kid Cancer says,
"That's a name."
That is a name. Nintendo not good with online. I think that we've pretty much covered that. To be fair. Someone moaning at our pronunciation of NES, saying it's NES.
It's not a real word, is it? It's just it's corporate jargon at the end of the day. So pronounce it however you like. I'm not being told how to pronounce the name of a corporate product. I will choose how I want to pronounce the name of a corporate product. I'm going to call it the NES. Simple as.
There we go. Avocado with Legs. That is unhelpful. And that's far too off topic for us to talk about. Fight the Man says Nintendo is trash just like Sony and Microsoft. We need Sega to make a new system. I think that's an interesting
comment. Is very interesting.
Sega will not make a new system. I can almost guarantee it, because the costs of developing such a system would be too high and too much of a gamble. But they do have the ability to become an incredible developer with the IPs that they have.
But I will say this as well, like everyone gets nostalgic about Sega because they were one of the big dogs once upon a time. But they no longer exist in the realms of creating consoles for a reason, because they were more incompetent and more foolish than even that of Nintendo. I'm uploading a video tomorrow about the history of a project called the Sega Black Belt, if you'd like to tune into my channel for that. Within this video, I cover a period in gaming during the Sega Saturn's life cycle. Where basically, no, it was prior to the Sega Saturn's life cycle. This would have been in the Mega CD era. And Tom Kalinske, who was in charge, or he was the CEO of Sega of America, was approached by Sony after basically Nintendo had screwed them over. And Sony basically approached Tom Kalinske, and Sega of America said, "Hey Sega, we've got this idea. Would you like to join forces with us and we'll create something together called the Sega PlayStation?" Essentially. So Tom Kalinske was like, "Oh yes, this sounds like a fantastic idea, and we can create this great system with 3D architecture." So he gets on the phone to Sega of Japan, and they're like, "No, not interested. We want to make a 2D based system instead. We want to make the Sega Saturn." So that doesn't happen. Also, around this same time period, Tom Kalinske is also approached by SGI, the people who produced the chipset for the Nintendo 64. So they offered it to Sega before they offered it to Nintendo. So he gets on the phone to Sega of Japan again. No, sorry, we're not interested. So basically, Sega had the opportunity to produce both the PlayStation and the Nintendo 64 before either Sony went on their own or Nintendo produced the 64, and instead they released the Saturn and all sorts of other shenanigans. So no, I'm not going to take that as them being a competent company. There's like Sega of Japan are literally the worst. I couldn't think of a group of people who was more incompetent than them over the late 90s. Sega are dead for a reason. So yes, that's the end of that segment.
And now, I mean, it's great that you've actually come in to watch this video. If you're watching now, you've saved yourself 25 minutes of absolute crap. Because you won't have to watch his video tomorrow.
No, the video is nothing about that. It's about the Sega Black Belt. My video tomorrow is about the Sega Black Belt.
And their incompetence.
That's some contextual information regarding how the Black Belt came about.
So you might have to watch it. Sorry.
You will. Sorry. They're giving it all away.
Old Dirty Gamer says, British don't like the NES, but they love the Switch. And then a big question mark. And then puts no NES, no Switch. Well, no NES, no Switch is pretty much the same.
I don't think Brits love the Switch.
Yeah, we're going to get to that.
Yeah.
First of all, no NES, no Switch. That's relatively fair, but it's also relatively obvious.
Yes.
It's like saying no PS1, no PS2.
Like, it's also like saying,
it's a meaningless statement.
It's like saying
not that I'm particularly having a go at you, but I'm having a go at the statement of obviously like Nintendo love, which seems to be emanating from this series.
All gaming history is interlinked. You could literally say no ZX Spectrum, no Nintendo 64, because most of the games on the system were developed by Rareware, who started out on the ZX Spectrum.
So or you can at the very least, no ZX Spectrum, no GameCube. Because they might have released the Nintendo 64 up to that point, but it would have flopped because it would have had no good games on it, and then the GameCube wouldn't have.
So we can go no ZX Spectrum, no Nintendo Switch. So you could probably do it with most systems.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Good point. That's a non-point. And also, do we really like the Switch?
I'm not a fan. I put up with it just about, I would say. But look, I've procured basically every system ever. So I've got the Switch just because I like to give everything a go. But so far, it seems to be a port monster.
Sorry, you said that phrase so much.
What, procured?
I literally just had a stroke.
That's how you establish catchphrases.
Yeah, I know, but I just had a stroke. Like, too much.
Sorry.
Too much. Anyway, right, so I think we've just covered that point, which is good, because I felt that was a point that needed to be addressed. Robin says, I'm mostly into retro, but looking into getting a Switch. Hoping to also play old Sega games like Virtua Fighter, etc. Amazed how non-existent the legacy library is. Even the PS3 still has more choice. There we go. See, again, that's another thing that we're talking about. The legacy library on the Switch is, at the moment at least, awful. Like, you would have thought...
Do you know what's sad?
They at least would have started, and they would have said, right, well, what we'll do is we'll release the online with 10 NES games, 10 SNES games, 10 64 games, well, probably 4, because you've got to space out the good ones. And for the first time ever, we're going to release some GameCube games for you to enjoy.
Do you know what's annoying?
But why did they start with the NES, and nothing else?
Do you know what's irritating? The Wii's legacy library was amazing, but for some reason they decided to just shut it down. They shut it down.
Why? Why do you think that was? This is their planning. When did they shut that down? 2 years ago? Just before the Switch?
About a year ago, maybe?
Just after the Switch?
Yeah, they shut it down.
They did it because they knew this was coming.
And you used to be able to get Donkey Kong Tropic Freeze for really cheap to download on the Wii U, and they took it down as soon as they re-released it expensive on the Wii U. It's like, it's really irritating.
They're making a point of screwing.
Did you know, speaking of the huge library which you could download on the Wii, did you know you could even get Commodore 64 games on the Wii?
I actually didn't know that.
That's ridiculous, isn't it? That's how good the Wii shop was. It was amazing. You had everything on there, but the Switch doesn't do that.
It's quite interesting. I didn't know that.
Even Commodore 64, which isn't even technically a games console.
Yeah. 48-bit Gamer says Sega of Japan is like Nintendo of America. Dumb.
Yes, Nintendo in general. To be fair, they're one of those companies who should be doing a lot better than they are. It's impressive some of the stuff they do, but you could see them doing better.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be fair, the Switch is...
It goes back to that old phrase people say about Vince McMahon as well. He's a millionaire who should be a billionaire. Yeah. That's how I look at Nintendo as well. And Sega.
I mean, the Switch in general is a very, very good idea for a piece of equipment. It's just not done very well. And the worst thing about it is that Nintendo have a habit of releasing gimmicks for consoles and never bringing them back. I mean, not the Wii or the Wii U or the Switch has a carry handle, for example. We're going about that amazing technical marvel, which was the carry handle on the GameCube. None of the others came with that.
No.
The Switch has only got one screen.
Although, no, they did reference it actually. When they first announced the Switch, they said that it takes elements of all the previous other consoles. They said, well, the Nintendo Switch is portable, like the GameCube, because it had a handle.
Yeah,
So,
that was funny, to be fair. They did a good
so
job. So
loosely linked.
But yeah, what I'm saying is, like, what's going to happen is that when the Switch kind of dies, it dies a death, right? And the Switch 2, whatever they end up calling that, comes out. The Switch U. Anyway,
the Wii CD, that's what I'd like to see next.
It's not going to be the same. They're not going to take the idea and think it was a really good idea. We didn't implement it particularly well the first time. It was all right, but we can do better. Let's make a better version of the Switch for a new generation. They're not going to do that.
What, you think
They're just going to ditch the idea and
crazy.
do something different. Like, the console will just be like a magical rainbow that you can press stuff into the air.
And it smells funny.
Yeah, to stop people from putting it up their nose. Like, all their cartridges will smell funny to stop people putting it up their nose. So, like, they've got a really good idea. And the second one will not be the same. I mean, look at the Wii and the Wii U. They're intrinsically linked by name.
The Wii U and the Switch are closer to linked.
At all.
The Wii U and the Switch are closer linked than
that's
the
what I'm saying.
Wii
Like,
and the Wii U.
The Switch will die. They'll kill it off, and they won't make it better, which is what they should be doing. Because they've had this is like their practice run at doing something amazing, and and the next time they're going to screw it up.
I would just like a good shop where you can get all their legacy games rather than getting them expensively ported over, like charging £50 for all these old games we've already owned. Download them for £3.
Could you imagine how much money Nintendo would make, right, if you could go onto their site and buy your own compilations, where they send you a physical cartridge with 10 games on for £40.
I reckon that'd be a fortune to produce, though. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I don't know how hard that would be.
Oh, yeah, it'd be a pain in the arse. But could you imagine how many of those they would sell?
Possibly. Could work.
Make your own compilation.
But what have we got? Are we hearing anything from anyone else, or do we want to talk? What do we want to talk about? Do we want to talk about more of a direct now? We've been talking about online services the whole time.
We have. We've got more direct stuff to talk about, and the thing that I want to talk about first of all is probably Final Fantasy was a big one.
Final Fantasy. Oh yes,
I'm a massive fan of the Final Fantasy series. I'm a massive fan of JRPGs in general. For anybody that has ever watched anything that I've said about, like I always say, I love JRPGs. Really, really enjoy them. There's a handful that they said is going to be coming out that I've never played before. The one that really gets me excited actually is Crystal Chronicles. I've never played that, and I think that game excites me.
I've got a GameCube copy just sitting up there if you fancy it. I've never got round to it personally.
Maybe. But the multiplayer on that seems quite cool as well. Like the fact that we could get me, you, Orb and Ryan, if we can convince them to buy Switches, to all sit and play together. It'd be cool. It'd be cool to do.
I'm more impressed to see those old Final Fantasy games. It's just the fact that the Switch, in terms of buttons, it's got quite a few which will function quite well for playing those games on the go, like Final Fantasy 7, Final Fantasy 9, Final Fantasy 10, 10.2 and HD, and 12, sorry. Those games would be fun to play on the go, especially 12, I can imagine. Those games would be good handheld games. Yeah. Yes, you can already get them on the PlayStation Portable and the PlayStation Vita, I believe. Yeah. But it hasn't got the adequate amount of buttons, really, for those to function very well. You have to use those horrible touch buttons you've got on the back of the Vita for it. Yeah. Which I hate.
Yeah, they are bad, to be fair. They are really bad. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of games on there that I really want to try out. So I'm quite excited about that. But there's two really ridiculous things about that announcement.
Which was what?
Well, the first one is going to be the fact that there's no 8.
Oh yeah, that was the one I would want to play the most as well, because I've played all the other ones loads and loads of times.
If we're talking about 7, 8, 9, 10, 10 to 12. 10 to is a non-point.
Yes, that's awful.
We're not talking about that. But 8 is one that I didn't sink a lot of time into either, and I would like to.
I think I've only ever had 2 playthroughs, where I've had a lot more playthroughs of all those others.
Yeah, see, I've never really played 8. I think I got about 4 hours in and turned it off and never picked it up again.
Yeah.
So that was one that I was quite excited to do, and it was like Final Fantasy 7. I was like, oh, cool, I get to play Final Fantasy 7 again. That would be really cool. Final Fantasy 9. Wait a minute, where's 8?
That's exactly. I was disappointed as well.
Like that was just what happened.
Because especially to me, I never watched it live. I just heard all the Final Fantasy games were coming to Switch, and I watched it later. I just expected 8 to be there.
Yeah. I watched it late. I didn't.
So that when I watched it late, I knew the Final Fantasy games were announced, but then when I saw no 8, because I just assumed it was, I was sad. Yes.
Yeah, that sucked. I wasn't happy about that. But then, kind of straight after that, like towards the end, they said, "Oh, and by the way, you get Final Fantasy 15." So we're like, "Oh, great! We get a port of an old game that's been out on PS4 and Xbox One for like how long? A year? Over a year?"
Yes.
So yeah, more ports.
Months.
Great. And then we realised it's Pocket Edition.
It was Pocket Edition, yes, whatever that means.
It basically means that all the characters are like, from what I saw, they were like deformed and squished. Look more like Final Fantasy 7 and 9 characters. So you could play, you get the essence of the game, but just with reduced hardware.
Final Fantasy 15 Chernobyl Edition.
Why Chernobyl? Just because it's a buzzword.
Well, there was a nuclear explosion there, wasn't there? Mutations and stuff.
So they're mutants. Okay. Yeah. I thought Mutant Edition probably would have worked better, rather than the obscure mutation reference. But I get it nonetheless. It's
good.
Fine.
Good.
It's fine. Barely.
What else annoyed? The Nintendo 3DS. They announced quite a few games.
See, the last Direct, we had a conversation. We actually did a React video, maybe not the last Direct, but one of the earlier Directs. And we basically said that we were pretty sure that this was going to be the end.
For the 3DS.
Yeah. We thought, right, this is the death of the 3DS now. They're not going to be supporting it anymore. And we were both wrong.
I actually love the 3DS. I'd really love to see it go on forever. It's the greatest Nintendo handheld of all time. And if Nintendo handhelds start to follow the footsteps of the Switch rather than the 3DS, then it will be the greatest Nintendo handheld of all time. For now, forever, for eternity, in my opinion.
Yeah. And it's not like when you say that Nintendo Switch is the greatest hybrid console of all time. Because that's technically Nintendo hybrid console of all time. Because that's just there's no competition.
The only thing annoying is all the 3DS games that are coming out -1 are all ports, which I've already played and owned, so they're of no interest to me. Like Kirby's Epic Yarn, I've already finished that on the Wii many years ago. Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube, that's really old. Not interested in playing that again. Yeah. And the other one, Bowser's Inside Story, that came out on the DS, and the 3DS is backwards compatible with the DS, so there's literally no reason to port a game you can already insert into the system.
I think there's a little bit extra into the games, like again the deluxe editions.
Still pointless. And the other one, which actually triggered me somewhat, a spin-off of the Yokai Watch. And the reason why it triggered me is because I love Yokai Watch, and for whatever reason, they have never released Yokai Watch 3 in the West. So they've not released Yokai Watch 3, but they released the irrelevant spin-off.
No,
how does that make any sense?
That's not what's happened. They've released 3, I think.
They haven't.
Is it not the spin-off?
They've released a spin-off.
Are they spin-offs?
Yeah, that's not 3.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. Okay, my bad.
Yes. It's very annoying. I'm very perturbed by that.
But why would they push a spin-off and not the original game? You think they'd push the original game?
I guess maybe it's more simplified for a Western audience, perhaps, whereas the other one's a JRPG. Yeah. And a lot of, notoriously, Japanese role-playing games do not always get released in the West. History's always been that way.
Yeah.
They obviously don't sell quite as well, I would gather.
Must be.
And I suppose the problem is, yokai is a very Japanese themed thing. Yokai is Japanese folklore, so that would make sense why they gave up releasing them in the West. It's exactly the same as Mystical Ninja starring Goemon, which we've been playing. It's the same sort of thing, very Japanese, so we're just keeping it at home. That looks like what's happened with that one.
It's a bit of a shame because again, you really raved about it.
Yeah, the first two are two of my favourite games on the 3DS.
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else. Should we go something funny or something relatively serious?
Funny or relatively serious?
Should we go serious first?
Everything's funny and serious simultaneously.
Okay. So we've had a couple of new games that were announced. So we had Luigi's Mansion 3.
Oh, yes. Nothing to
Again,
complain about that. It's
yeah,
a new game.
Again, nothing funny, which is good. Also, Game Freak have been secretly
Oh yes, I did
developing
see
a new
that.
game.
They did sneak that in, didn't they?
Yeah, a new RPG.
Yes.
Which I mean, it looks alright.
It looks more interesting than that strange Pokemon game, which makes you ironically pretend to throw things.
Oh god, yeah, you can play on a train, and
No.
that's the whole idea of taking it out.
Yeah.
Like, right, okay, we're briefly going to step on that just for a second, right? The Pokemon Let's Go games, right, are based around the Pokemon Go game for your mobile phone, in which the idea is to take your game portable
Oh yes.
to go and catch Pokemon out in the wild. And then they've released a side game which is supposed to be the mobile game, but for home consoles on a console that is designed to be taken around.
I know.
Like, how broken is that? Like, the logic in that is mind-blowing.
It reminds me of Professor Farnsworth on Futurama, in that bit in the show where he goes, someone says to him, someone asks him, goes, well, who's the target audience for that product? And he goes, there is no target audience, only targets. It reminds me of that game.
It's just ridiculous. Like, the logic behind it doesn't make any sense. It's mind-blowing. It was hard for me to say it. Was it hard for you to understand?
Yes, I tried to. Yes, that's why I closed my eyes.
Could I have explained that any better?
I do not believe so. No.
Like, that's it.
No.
Like, why is that so broken?
Because Nintendo. Why do they not understand the internet? There's lots of things that are baffling.
Yeah, it's like it's designed to be taken. The game's designed to be taken outside, and they've designed the game to not go outside on a console that's supposed to go outside.
Oh, it's
Just
very irritating indeed. And this brings me on to another thing that's very irritating indeed. A game with the most contrived name I've perhaps ever heard in my life. New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. Like, how many little bits you
and
have
it
to type
comes
onto?
in, right? And New Super Mario Brothers Wii U Deluxe. Is that right? No, hold on just a second. Is that right?
New
Super Mario Brothers Wii U Deluxe.
It's just U Deluxe, but the U is to represent the Wii U. But it's on the Switch.
Okay, so New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe. Now for the Nintendo Switch, comes bundled with New Super Luigi Brothers U.
Doesn't make sense.
I hope they put that on the cover art.
How can something be a port and new at the same time? That doesn't make sense. Stop doing this to me. Nothing they do makes any sense. It just makes me angry.
Oh god!
I don't understand.
Oh, like it's just ridiculous.
You can't release a game from years ago and call it New Super Mario Brothers. It's honestly
Nintendo. Oh, it's crazy, isn't it?
Honestly.
Also, okay. Here's the funny one that I was coming up with. Okay, you ready? Now, on your brand new Nintendo Switch console, you can buy board and card games.
Oh yes, you can, can't you?
What on earth is that?
I don't really know, because if you wanted a board game, you just buy a board game.
Yeah, the thing is that like, and if you wanted a card game, you buy a card game. There are some exceptions, but Lord of the Rings is not one of them. The Lord of the Rings card game is not one of those things where I think, actually, I would have sunk a lot of money if I was actually buying the cards.
This isn't a new thing, though. You've been able to get things like Monopoly on the Nintendo...
Have you played Monopoly on the Switch?
No. Okay. Yeah. I've never played Monopoly without a real board anyway, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, Samuel says, isn't Mario Party a board game? No, it's a game designed to be like a board game.
That's a bit funny, actually. I've only just realised I wear a top hat, and I essentially used to live on the Monopoly board in real life, because I used to live just off the Old Kent Road. So for anyone watching from the colonies, that's an interesting factoid for you. I lived next to the Old Kent Road and wear a top hat. So I must be the Monopoly man. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. So I stopped listening because I was reading a comment. William Trelane says, Top Hat Game Man, do you still get mad when they're still called Mario and Luigi Mario?
No, I think they are called Mario and Luigi Mario.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is their
Everything that happens in the films is canon to the games, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If it's happened, it's happened. It's as simple as that. You can't rewrite history. Do you agree with that? The
Yes.
same as I believe that Milli Vanilli are permanently canon to the Mario games as well, because they appeared in that episode of the Super Mario Bros. 3 cartoon. And I'm waiting for their appearance in Smash Bros.
Juan Diego Calderon says, "Quien pasa WhatsApp?"
Care?
Exactly. Let's have a look. Answering the title from Christian Phillips says, "'Cause is cheap."
Because he's cheap.
What's
Perhaps.
the title? Why is Nintendo Switch Online so pathetic? Because he's cheap.
It is.
To be fair, yeah, but that wouldn't have made a very long video.
But saying that, because it's cheap, because you're not paying much, you should get a crap service. That's not the case at all, though. Netflix is cheap, but that's a really good service. So no, that's not a fair reason whatsoever. Even the WWE Network, that's a fairly decent product for its value. So no, I don't believe that's the case. It should be better.
Yeah. Juice Hedgehog says, "I love your channel, man. We needed a non-Nintendo biased retro gamer, so thank you for being their top hat man.
Thank you. I do like to believe I'm a non-Nintendo. I can't even get my words out.
Non-biased, non-Nintendo loving entity.
Yes,
retro
but
gaming
people
entity.
try and accuse me then of being a fanboy of one of the other companies. But would you say I'm a fanboy of any of the companies?
Possibly like ZX Spectrum. You are a bit like.
No, I don't think I am.
You are a bit gay for Spectrum games.
I'm not. I'm not at all. Not at all. Although I do feel its history is underrepresented somewhat compared to its impact it's had on gaming.
Okay, Emmett Ishida says Nintendo doesn't know how to do online. It most certainly does not. Samuel says, to be fair, Mario games were always simple and fun. Yeah, but not the names, apparently.
No.
What do you think of the new Intellivision that is supposedly coming out? Another Atari box?
The new Intellivision? I haven't heard about that one yet, so maybe
we will research.
We will research.
And by that we mean we probably won't.
Yes.
And somebody will mention it to us on Twitter in about 3 weeks' time. We'll go, oh yeah, I remember someone said about that.
Maybe.
And then we won't research it again.
Yeah.
Because that's generally what happens whenever we talk about anything. Let's have a look. What else is going on? Lots of people loving you.
Hello, I love all of you too.
Online gaming on PC is free and it works.
That is true.
Slightly different infrastructure.
So?
But, yeah, I can see what you mean. Hi guys, by the way, so maybe because Nintendo lacks experience.
But no, they don't. They're the most experienced console manufacturer on planet Earth. There is no company around who've been making games consoles longer than them. So to say they lack experience is, quite frankly, wrong. They are the most experienced.
And to be fair, they've got two other console giants at this time. Like, again, this is the first time we've had like a real two-horse race as far as technology goes in consoles. Like over the past 10 years, 15 years.
What, consistently, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's been two, hasn't it? It's
yes.
been like, since PS2, been like PS2, Xbox, pretty much solid. And they've been consistently getting better every single time. And then the start of their online service got consistently better every single release. So they have watched these other services grow and kind of get better and better over time. So they had a great base to base themselves off of in their first outing.
The PlayStation,
they weren't starting from scratch.
And the PlayStation Store's been around for years and years now, hasn't it?
Oh,
and
yeah.
you can still get the same games. And what pretty much always been on there to some degree. So it's one PlayStation Store to use across all the systems. Whereas Nintendo have never done that. They've had a separate service for every platform they've released, which is really stupid.
Really strange.
It's just non-consumer friendly. I suppose that would be the term. Non-consumer. It's restrictive for consumers. Yeah. But they probably see restricting consumers as a benefit for themselves. They can control the market more by doing so.
One thing I do see with Nintendo consoles, which again might be a little bit just through my perspective, is that people seem to be a little bit slower on the uptake with Nintendo consoles. So they try and breed a bit of life into their old stuff for a little bit longer to make it available. So what tends to happen is, like, whenever a new Nintendo console comes out, they seem to milk the old one a little bit. People seem to be less like, I'm going to go out and get this new Nintendo console. Whereas with Xbox, PlayStation, they tend to go, the new one's out, I want to get that as soon as I possibly can. I think Nintendo doesn't really have that effect. Do you think that that's because they...
I don't know.
They don't follow things on, or do you think that's the reason why they carry things on, because people don't uptake all the time. They know people are going to still be gaming, so they're just going to try and milk the last bit of life out of their console before.
I know personally, I think that the reason behind it is simply, I would say, casual gamers won't have a Nintendo Switch. Not likely these days. They will most likely have a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One, and most people these days who buy a console on release day are the uneducated, the people who just want to consume things for the sake of consuming them. They want to own
YouTubers.
They want to own things for the sake of owning them on day one. Whereas I'd find that most people who are that way inclined will be more likely to game on a PS4 or Xbox One than a Nintendo Switch anyway. The Nintendo Switch is a lot more. It is more niche. It's a more niche product.
Yeah. Right, so we've got a few minutes left. So what do you want to spend this last few minutes doing?
I suppose, ladies and gentlemen, we shall be leaving in the next couple of minutes. So thank you for joining us tonight. I think we've pretty much had record numbers on here all night.
Yeah, we have. And if we could move those over to Twitch, we would have record numbers on Twitch as well.
Yes, that'd be amazing. So we just can literally going to continue this discussion over on twitch.tv/TopHatChat, where I shall be playing some Super Nintendo, the period where Nintendo were white hot and everything was amazing. So if you want to join us on twitch.tv/TopHatChat, you can join us there. And I'm going to be playing games all night. Me and Luke are going to be talking to each other, and also Luke is going to be monitoring the chat, reading out a huge amount of comments on there, like much more than on here. Because this is mainly a discussion show, but because I'm gaming, there you will be interacting with them a lot more, won't you? So,
and I'll be throwing comments backwards and forwards and throwing questions backwards and forwards. We're really easy to find, and it's a decent show. It's definitely worth coming to watch.
So if you've been unable to interact with me tonight here, I can guarantee you will be able to interact with me over on Twitch. 100%. So if you want to talk to me or want to talk to Luke, you'll be able to do it on Twitch. Guarantee we will answer everyone. We won't miss a person, will we?
No.
Hopefully. No, we won't miss any of you. So yes, come join us on twitch.tv/TopHatChat. And yes, we're going to play some Aladdin. Also, make sure you tune into my Sega Black Belt video on this channel tomorrow. Yeah. Cheerio!